Hello and good evening and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show on our weekly Leeds United catch-up show where we're checking in and seeing how the Whites are getting on. Pre-season's high-flying now, a couple of games in. I'm Stephen Brown and joining me as ever is Mr. Jason Booker. Look at us.
Sporting, mate.
Oh, come on. I got mine yesterday. I was straight there. 24th when it came on sale. I was like, boom, I'm getting it. Got to be done. I tell you what though, I don't think I'd ever seen the club shoppers busy. It was just they had a steward outside navigating traffic. It was that kind of busy and interest. I mean, this shirt and the smiley badge coming back. I mean, it's just I'll be amazed if it doesn't break records.
The proper yellow as well. The proper yellow. I mean, the White Rose was the same today. Carnage. Celebrities in there, mate. Nikolai, obviously, I seen him. I honestly,
Jamie Lannister from Game of Thrones.
Jamie Lannister from Game of Thrones. Wow. He was there. I walked past him as he walked in, and I was like, Jamie Lannister. And I was like, I should ask for a picture. And then I properly bottled it. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. A big Game of Thrones fan, so yeah. But yeah, no, it's great to see, mate. It's great to have the club and you know the fan base be excited about a shirt and excited about, you know, even with the Red Bull situation. I mean, I don't know about you, but I love the blue Bulls.
It's even like I know. It just works, doesn't it? As a kit, it just absolutely works.
And it's comfy. I thought it was going to be a bit uncomfortable because it's a bit of a retro look. It's really comfortable to wear. So yeah, I love it, mate.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Ryan, evening all. Thank you, mate. And it lets us know he got his from JD Sports in Wakefield, and the staff said people were queuing for 40 minutes before it opened. I can absolutely believe it. I really can. You did a bit of a splurge as well, didn't you? So you didn't just get the shirt. You got the home shirt and a couple other bits as well, didn't you, mate?
I did. I tricked myself. I thought, why not? You know, we put a lot of weight up with from time to time with Squirrel.
It's nice, though. Some of the stuff they're coming out with is very nice. Very nice.
I'm a big fan of the home shirt as well. I know it got a bit of grief to start with. And yeah, sure, it's got a Red Bull on it, but it's part of the sponsor. I'm not, like, it's not in the badge. It's not on the shirt. It's part of that sponsor, so I'm all right with it. I love it, mate. I love the gear at the moment, and more of this retro stuff keeps coming out. Like, take my money. They're gonna be all over it.
I know, absolutely. Because you know, if we don't get promoted in this shirt, if we don't get promoted in these kits, like just damn beat to us, man, it's just never going to happen. It's just all set up, isn't it? It's all set up. If you're watching along, please do smash a like on the video. Get yourself subscribed to the channel as well. If you're watching along on X, retweet us. A couple of bits of breaking news, potentially a couple of Twitter rumours flying up just a few minutes before we got on air, Jason. Rumours of Angus Kinnear departing the club. I don't know if it's a reputable source. I haven't had a chance to kind of vet it or look too deeply into it, but there's rumours that Angus Kinnear has left or is about to leave. I mean, obviously, he was that link between the previous ownership and the new ownership, and he kind of, helped that deal, didn't he, really happen between Radrizzani and the 49ers. You know, I think he did a lot of good work to actually get that deal through. And it'd be a bit strange, won't it, Angus Kinnear not at the club anymore if that is true. I think he's kind of always been a top professional. I know, you know, he did his program notes and maybe got a little bit carried away with that side of it. But generally speaking, I mean, you can't argue with too much from a CEO, can you really, in his position? I mean, I know obviously there's complaints about him, Orta, Radrizzani, and he was kind of tarnished with them, wasn't he? But I think he's done okay, really.
He was employed by them and tasked to do things by them. And when the 49ers took over, if he was that bad that they got rid of him, it'd have been straight moved on. And I think there was the kind of saving grace for Kinnear is that he was kind of seen as somebody that could bridge the gap between the old ownership and the new ownership. It was probably discussed a year ago, if the rumours are true that he's now left, it was probably discussed a year ago that, look, our partnership will look something like this. You'll be here for a year, and then you'll be severance paid off for the rest of your contract or whatever that kind of situation looks like. And the timing's a little bit weird. I would have probably expected it to happen a little bit earlier if it was going to happen in this summer, but maybe the playoffs and being pushed back and then the Euros didn't allow that to happen. I don't know, but yeah, for me, no real kind of gripe towards him. He was kind of a voice note for Radrazani and Victor Orta previously. So, even his failings, I just see it as him doing his job. And I think, he has obviously done some good work in getting the 49ers into the club and having a successful takeover. So, no gripes from me, mate, to be honest.
No. And a friend of the show, Nancy Froston from The Athletic as well, did report earlier in the week that Leeds have made a couple of additions to the boardroom. Charlotte Hornets co-owner, Andrew Schwartzberg, has joined, and Charlotte Hornets are in the NBA, I believe. There's someone who knows absolutely naff all about American sport. Whatever.
It had some gums wagging, didn't it? Because people were putting 2 and 2 together and getting 7, thinking that the name sounded Red Bull-like. I don't know what that even means, but I'm guessing they're trying to get at the fact that one of their surnames sounded a bit Austrian. That's what I think they were getting at. So yeah, but no, there's no kind of validity to that. So yeah,
no link there. So basically, yeah, you wonder if kind of 49ers now, and we know this, they've been putting pieces of the jigsaw together since they took full ownership. They've been expanding kind of everything to do with the club, really, haven't they? They've, you look at scouting, yourself obviously involved with that. You're looking at just that experience and the quality of the people that they're getting in at executive level and every single level of the club. Then it's okay. Although I do have possibly an update from this Top Banana. Dan from the Square Ball said it's not true on Wacko. Is that? I think. Who knows? I don't know
right now. Like,
who knows?
Discuss it too much until we know something a little bit more. But like I said, I don't think either way it's of a massive talking point for us as a fan. From at a fan level, the progression will be that he eventually, I think Angus, that is, will probably leave anyway. I think we kind of all really should have probably expected that from the day that the 49ers took sole control. So, but yeah, you're absolutely spot on, mate. They're making real strides to make the club a more functional operation, right from the ground all the way up to the top. We heard it several times mentioned that they were a Premier League club over the last few years in status in terms of the division that we're in, but the operations behind the scenes were League One level. And I think that was the case. Bielsa held the kind of fringes of that all together to make it an outfit that succeeded on the pitch, but off the pitch it weren't like that. And we've seen that with the amount of fulfillments that they've done since coming in. I mean, even down to the scouting department being now paid employment, which it wasn't beforehand. It was all voluntary work, and that it doesn't work like that in the top 2 divisions. Certainly in lower league football, it's heavily relied on voluntary work. But towards the top, when you want invest in class, you can't operate like that. So it is an interesting one, and it's I'm glad of it. This is why I couldn't really get on board with this overreaction and kind of hypersensitivity towards the transfers and slating the 49ers so quickly. It just didn't make any sense to me.
No, I really don't get it. I think they've had a number of wins, absolutely. And I thought it was a bit harsh, to be honest. Top Banana, evening, all of the yellow tops, all these away match on together. Yeah, man. Hope you've got it as well there. I mean, it just, I don't know about you, Jason, but I feel like the Euros, England, all that was like a nice distraction away from Leeds United stuff, especially after defeating the playoff. It was a nice kind of, we love a summer tournament, and obviously they put us through the mill, England as well. That feels like quite a long time ago now. That's put to bed. Like, I'm not even bothered who the new manager is or anything. I've forgotten about it now. The focus is back on Leeds United, and when you look at this is where you start to get excited, isn't it? In pre-season, straight away when I saw him get into the Harrogate game, you're seeing the players get off the bus. Yeah, you're seeing the training videos getting released. This is where it starts to get exciting. You look at the quality of the squad, and you just think, come on, this has got to be our season, surely.
The Euros for me just got me through the off season quicker, because like as soon as the Euros finished, especially because we got to the final, the second it finished, it was like, oh, Leeds are playing in a friendly next Friday. Like, it was there, and the transfers were starting to be spoke about like overnight. I think the Sunday finished the Euros. I think on Tuesday or the Thursday of that following week, we signed Joe Rothwell. So there were no gap at all for us as Leeds fans, really, which has been, perfect, really, because that downtime in between before your first friendly or your first signing, it's a long time, especially if you're coming on the back of a disappointment, relegation, missing out on promotion or whatever. So, yeah, I agree with you, mate. Like when I saw the boys get off the bus at Harrogate, and I saw Brendan Aaronson in the, walking in, and then he weren't in the squad, and that all started to get me excited. And then I heard the stuff about Wöber coming back into the squad, and and we could talk about him at some point tonight. We'll talk about him, how you feel about it, and all the rest of it. But for me, especially with Brendan, it's a brand new signing of a player that really should take this league by storm. So it's exciting. Like, what's not to be excited about that? And I even thought about it watching the game earlier, because I watched it in like 2 parts. I had watched it a bit this morning before I went out, and then I watched maybe another hour of it, or second half, just over the second half, when I got back. And, this is going to sound crazy, but I'm excited to be at the top again. Like, I wanted to be in the Premier League, but I know that if we'd have got to the Premier League, we'd have been in for a difficult season, 15, 16, battling relegation, maybe even going straight back down. Like it happens to a lot of brand new promoted teams. But the silver lining of missing out on promotion is that we should go into this season and really run it home. So yeah, I'm just excited. I'm just excited by it all. I mean, I've seen I don't know if you have gone there or not, but I've seen a lot of wild take of from Ipswich fans thinking that they're gonna steamroll the Premier League next season. And I'm like,
in Europe, are they?
You are living in cloud cuckoo land, boys. I'm telling you. You've got no idea. I mean, some of the teams that they're putting out there, they're like, oh, this team should easily finish in the top 10. You got Matty Wolfenden at right back and or at centre back, and Sam Morse in centre midfield, and Hurst up front. You're in for a world of hurt. So as much as I would have wanted to be there, the silver lining in that we're not is that we should enjoy next season.
Yeah, I do get that, because you feel like one of the superpowers in the league, don't you? You look at the squad and you just kind of come on. I mean, for me, said it before, but minimum expectation is promotion, automatic promotion for me. It has to be top 2, and signs are encouraging. This potential new formation that might be integrated. The fact that you're getting players of Wöber and Aaronson's quality coming back, and I mean, let's look at the friendly then against Hanover. I've seen the highlights. I've not actually had a chance to watch the full game, but from everything I've heard, very encouraging. 2 goals from Matteo Joseph. Aaronson, as Ryan puts here, a no-look pass through to Gruev. I mean, talk to me about some of the performances. I mean, seeing Aaronson in a Leeds shirt again, Jason, I mean, what did he offer?
Well, he first off looked like he had a real point to prove. That's the first thing that I kind of noticed, and it was noted in comms as well, that, he wanted to be on the free kick when we got a free kick at the edge of the box. He wanted to commit players. He were an absolute handful for the first 20 minutes, especially. He were a real problem. Obviously, he got the assist for the Gruev goal. I think, and we know this from his time when he played for us in the Premier League, he was the starting point for the press, which was so impressive in the first half, especially. And Brendan's energy and his stamina, his work rate across that front line is really impressive. He started on the left, which I thought was interesting, because we've spoken about this inverted 10 situation where we play with 2 10s and then a wide man. That's pretty much what it looked like in the first half. Aaronson on the left inverted, Rutter in the 10, and then Nonto giving the out-and-out width on the right. And then I thought, and we'll come back to the first half in a second, but I thought in the second half, I thought it was really interesting that Nonto started on the left and Somerville was on the right. Now, it did change. It did kind of configure, they swapped and they mixed in together over the half. But the way that it started in the half was Nonto was the out-and-out left-sided, and Somerville were more central. He actually played through the ball to Joseph's first goal 5 minutes into the second half. That was Cree picking the ball up on the right, going inside into the 10 role and playing the passing. So Brendan just commits players, and I think in the Championship, when he's going to be coming up against defenders that are just nowhere near as good as what he's used to being dealing with, I just think he's going to have them on toast. Like, I think Somerville and the player that he was last season, he was head and shoulders above most players that he played against. Brendan Aaronson should really be in the same kettle of fish. This is a player that we paid, over £30 million for. He was highly regarded as a USA international. He still did well in the early stages of the Premier League. It was just too much for him too soon. Now he's taking that step down, just the same as Somerville. He really should be head and shoulders above this league. So I'm super excited to watch him play, regardless of what happened the year before. I don't know if you've read the piece that came out.
Why the interview?
Yes,
that one. Yeah.
And I think he's dead honest with the situation. Yeah. I've just got it to the side of me. That's why I'm looking here. The decision to go out on loan, basically saying that it came at a moment where he didn't know who the manager was. Or who it would be. He didn't know who the sporting director was. The club was in a transition period for ownership as well, which I think is fair that makes an impact on his decision. He had a good opportunity to go and play Champions League football in a country that he knows. Makes a lot of sense. And then going through the season, he says around 6 or 7 months in, he was speaking to his girlfriend and he made the decision that he wanted to come back next season to Leeds United. I mean, how can any Leeds fan really have a problem with any of that? And he was hung out to dry last season by the managers, Jesse Marsh in particular. The fans weren't particularly singing his praises and making him feel welcome at the end of last season, were they? None of the American boys really were to feel any of that. And whether they deserved it or not is another question, but they weren't made to feel, welcome. So can you really blame him? And then he's, I do believe there's a certain amount of reality to the situation that he didn't have that many options this summer, or Leeds United didn't have that many viable options on paper for PSR reasons. But so what? He's saying all the right things now, and he's playing for the shirt. No problem for me at all. I'm so excited to watch him this season.
I 100% agree with everything you said. That I think he was so unfairly targeted. That season that we went down in the Premier League, he got off to an absolute incredible start. He was actually still putting in performances up until the World Cup. If you actually look at it, if you look at the compilation that was going around Twitter, how many times he set up Bamford, and Bamford was absolutely god-awful that season.
He played well against Forest in the game that Jesse Marsh got sacked. Yeah. First half, he was all over them. He was unplayable. So, I mean, me and you had spoken about him a few times, and we always kind of said, especially you, to be fair to you, that you thought there were a player in him. And I agreed with you, and I still agree with you now. And I think he was hung out to dry not last season, the season before. I don't think he should have ever been expected to play the amount of games that he played in that first season.
I've got to say, because what I think kind of developed over time is this anti-American thing. And I think that played a part for me, especially with Jesse Marsh, because, for me, Jesse Marsh did not do a good job at all. He really did a poor job at Leeds. I think that's indisputable. And I think Weston McKennie coming in, Tyler Adams coming in, and when it started to go wrong, I feel like this anti-American thing, I feel like Brendan was lumped in a little bit with, I mean, we know what Leeds fans, we've seen it, haven't we, on social media? It's like just writing them off. And you're absolutely right. End of last season, he was getting absolute pelters left, right, and centre. And, this thing of falling over and everything like that, One thing I've got to say is he's in a position, he's playing at the top end of the pitch, he's trying to win free kicks, he's trying to, get advantages for his team. I think it's a learning curve for him. Clearly the message has got through, he's put on some muscle, he's put on 6 pounds, I think, or 6 to 10 pounds of, muscle or whatever to try and get a little bit sturdier. I think that message has got to him, and I just think he was very unfairly written off completely. He was written off completely. And I think you're absolutely right. When it came to the end of last season, Farke wasn't there when he decided to go. He had an opportunity to go. He had this clause in his contract. Who else would have done that? As Digler puts here, 100% Aaronson treated unfairly by some fans and content creators. Absolutely, because we're so quick to judge. We're so quick to judge. I mean, look, when you're a content creator, like we have to go on and we have to give our opinions, and we have to, when you're worked up after a game and you've seen a bad performance and you get on and you'll slate them. I hope me and Jason, we try and still stay a bit balanced. I'll probably drop Jason a message that isn't balanced, but that's a private thing. I'm not putting that out there, because I've said before, I used to do it on Twitter. I'd be watching a game and I'd hammer them on Twitter. I'd say something on Twitter, and then you look back a couple of days' time, you cringe and you go, oh, grow up. Do you know what I mean? You're in your 30s, for God's sake, just grow up, get a bit of perspective. And I just think Aaronson, we should be very excited by the fact that he's back and what the potential is there. And I think we've just got to get behind him. I think we've got to get over this American thing. I think we've really got to get over this. They're American, i.e. they're automatically terrible. I just think it's got to be put to bed.
It's almost a bit xenophobic, isn't it? I mean, and Bielsa experienced this as somebody that didn't speak English in the country and managing Leeds and all the rest of it. And, some of it can be unconscious sometimes. Yeah. It's funny because no matter what generation you speak to, whenever you've gone to the games, I remember going to the games 08, 09, even earlier than that, 05, 06 in the first championship playoff season. I remember this game really, really vividly because it was one of the best days I can ever remember. When we beat Southampton 4-3 from 3-0 down at the St Mary's, there were this. I don't know if you remember Dan Harding, who used to play for Leeds, left back, and he used to get pelters just because he was a bit of a posh boy. He'd come up from the South Coast. I think we bought him from Brighton, and it didn't go particularly well for him. And he was playing alongside Matt Kilgallen, who was obviously a Leeds boy at the time. And never ever forget this, because Matt Kilgallen just used to get away with blue murder. It didn't matter what he did, whether he did it right or wrong, he was always defended by the Leeds fans because we were a Leeds boy. And Theo Walcott absolutely cooked Kilgallen down the right-hand side for one of their goals, cut it back and they scored. And the Leeds fans automatically made it Dan Harding. Dan Harding wasn't even there. Like, he wasn't even there, but they couldn't think to blame Kilgallen. You know what I mean? And it's just the point that sometimes it's just the way that it goes for players sometimes. And I think Brendan falls into that. If he'd have been the only American in the side, maybe he'd have got a little bit more of a pass. If Jesse Marsh hadn't have replaced Bielsa, maybe he'd have got more of a pass, because Jesse Marsh did have an hard time. On the matter, like, I don't rate him in the slightest. He doesn't deserve defending. But one thing I will say is that whoever followed Bielsa was probably going to fail. So yeah, it is a funny one. And I think you're absolutely spot on, mate. We need to just kind of get on with it now. Support him, back him 100% because he's a confidence player. And the more we can get from him, like I say, I think he's going to cook, mate. I think he's going to absolutely tear this league
I'd love to see. I mean, I absolutely would love to see it. I mean, as Ryan says here, Aaronson is very good at picking up the ball deep, driving forward with it. Teams in the Championship playing a low block against us, plays straight into his style of play. And Diggler, we appreciate this one as well. You're one of the most balanced content creators, one of the few places where I come to for a bit of sanity. Thank you. Really appreciate that, Diggler. So it's great to have him back. Someone else that's going to be back. He didn't play in the friendly though, did he, Wöber? He wasn't there, was he?
He played in the second half.
Did he play in the second half?
He played in the second half of Hanover.
What was it still this 3-5-2 then?
No, he replaced Firpo. He replaced Firpo at half time and he played left back. Pascal and Debayo played the most of the half alongside him, maybe even all of the half alongside him. The subs were happening quite quickly in all sorts of different spells of the game. But pretty much the whole of the second half was Bogle, Debayo, Struijk and Wöber at left back. He was progressing. He was high up the pitch. He was doing the role of Firpo, really. Wöber's technically quite good. He's not a centre-back in the old style fashion. It's not like playing Joe Rodon at right back. Yeah. When you play Wöber at left back. So, and the conversation's going to go into tonight as to what we potentially still need to do in this squad. And I know you said before we came on air about another left back, and I hear it. Especially if we are going to go down this 5-3-2 or 5-4-3-3 or however you want to brandish a formation. We'd probably need a more attacking left back if that is going to be the case. But the fact that we started as a 4-3-2-1 again yesterday, or 4-2-3-1 yesterday, makes me think that is probably still going to be the go-to. And there might be certain opposition that we then go into a 3 at the back and Wöber might jump in there. But like I said to you before coming on air, I just can't imagine getting to the first game of the season against Portsmouth and Wöber being on the bench. I just can't believe that. And now, whether he is actually going to still be here or not come the end of the window, I can imagine a team coming in with 15 to 20 million for Wöber. He's an Austrian international who can do a real job in pretty much any top division in the world. I can imagine him play not for a top team, but any team, a West Ham, Crystal Palace. I can imagine him doing a job in any of them teams and their equivalents in the Serie A, the German league. He's played in the Eredivisie and the Bundesliga, top division in both. So I can imagine a team coming in from. But if he is here, how do you leave him on the bench? And that's why I was so convinced that this three at the back were going to be the kind of formula to put that right. But I don't know, mate. I really don't know, because then where do you find room for Gruev, Ampadu, and the 10? And it changes all sorts of different dynamics if you're putting in another centre back every game. Yeah. So it's a tricky one, real tricky one.
Some head scratching to do for Daniel Farke, isn't there? I mean, it's. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I was just going to say, coming back to his performance, he did well. Defensively, he looked solid. He got himself into some good attacking positions, just like Firpo did. He didn't struggle. Obviously, Leeds were well in control of the game. There was one mistake by Pascal that put us under pressure and we conceded from it. But apart from that, we had all the running. Bogle was extremely high on the right side, which he had a cutback just before the Joseph goal that looked exactly the same as that got cut out. So you can see that that's going to be the intention. That's where the width is going to come from. And then the inverted 10s or the inverted wingers, if you like, they're going to be playing centrally. But the biggest thing that I took out of yesterday's game was how we wanted to progress the ball vertically rather than going side to side all the time. The play went forwards a lot more, at the risk of giving the ball back from time to time and, giving up possession. But that's what you could see. It was evident. The passes were going past the defenders. The Brendan Aaronson reverse pass, the ball into Joseph, these things kept on happening. Even the ball into Pirro, the press was so prominent. And for me, we'll come on to Pirro at some point. I still don't know exactly where he fits in this side. But what I will say is that if you've got Rutter, James, Nonto, Aaronson and whoever else pressing, and Pirro can just be left to lurk, the second that ball turns over in possession, you give it to Pirro, he'll finish. So, that ball came to him on his weak foot yesterday. He smashed it in. There were no this, trying to make it too complicated. He smashed it in. So, really exciting performance.
Yeah, I mean, lots of positives coming out from this game. I mean, as Top Banana says, you've got to watch the whole game. One of the best preseason games I've seen and supported Leeds for over 50 years. And that's the fascinating thing if Leeds are trying to be a bit more vertical on that front. Because you can say, it's only preseason, but I remember preseason last year, we played in exactly the style that we ended up playing, where it was side to side, controlling possession, retaining possession, patient. And I'm all for it if we get a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more vertical, maybe, a bit more riskier, but with the quality of players we got, Jason. I mean, you can do it, can't you? You can take a risk because, it's insane is the quality depth.
It depends on the moments of the game as well. Because I remember last season when we ran into a 2-0 or a 3-0 lead, I'm fine with it. Keep the ball as long as you want. Pass it around side to side. I ain't bothered. I'll watch keep ball. If it means that we're going to dominate the game and win the game. And we did a bit of that yesterday. We went 2-0 up. We controlled the game then for a period of time. We got the third. We killed it off. But we still did penetrate. We're obviously trying to work on things. But my problem with it last season was keeping it for the sake of keeping it at 0-0 or 1-0. And then you're inviting teams on to get that one goal. So, again, agree with you. But the fluidity of the passing was much, much better. You've got to be careful not to take too much out of pre-season. But what I will say with Hanover is that they finished 6th in the Bundesliga 2 last season. They're going to be expected going for promotion again. Their Bundesliga 2 is not the same as the Championship in terms of quality, but I would say the top teams in that division are probably equivalent to the bottom end teams in the Championship. So, the teams that we're going to be playing every week, Cardiff, Stokes, teams like this.
It's a good matchup, isn't it? Good matchup.
It's a good matchup. And they're a week away from the start of their season. They're a week further ahead than us. So, they're ready to go now next weekend after playing. This is their last preseason game pretty much. So I think it's a good testament to where we're at. I mean, some of the movement and the plays that we had, some of the 1-touch, 2-touch play that we showed, was really, really good to see. Really, really good to see. You're spot on, though. It comes down to the quality. There's a lot of quality in that side.
Yeah, I mean, some of the clips flying around social media of the interlinking passing, and then you've got Rutter doing Rutter things, that bit of footwork that he does. I mean, I had to kind of like replay it and kind of like slow it down and zoom in. I'm like, what is this guy doing? I mean, he's
ridiculous,
dancing on the pitch, isn't he? It's just absolutely ridiculous. LUFC Lee, thank you for your comments, mate. Nice having problems fitting players in. The uncertainty about key players leaving. There must be a cut-off date. Nige, what size shirt is yours? Mine's a medium. I got
large.
Medium for
large, but I'm stacked. Nige, so you know, I've got a big shoulder.
He's in the gym. so sure. Nige, 49ers did say they were keeping on Kinnear for the transition. And Digler, Stroik versus Hanover. It's good to get the mistakes out of the way. Why did I think it would debate, or was it Stroik?
You know what?
That pass back to
when you watch it, especially the first time that you watch it, because Stroik's got the back of his head to the camera, it makes him look dark skinned. That's what happened, because I thought exactly the same thing. So it makes you think it's DeBayo, because obviously we don't have any other player that you would think it was back in that position. So, but actually, when you watch it back, unfortunately it's Pascal on his. It must take a second, a bobble or whatever, because it kicks up in there. I do think it's a foul on Meslier. You know, the player flies into Meslier as he's trying to clear it, but it is what it is. I mean, Pascal played really, really well, I thought, for most of the game. No real concerns. But Digler's right. It's good to get the mistakes out of the way, innit? That's what pre-season's for. So yeah, I mean, just coming back to Lee's point about having uncertainty over key players. Unless you are Man City or Real Madrid, you don't really. Everybody else has an uncertainty about players leaving. You know, some have more uncertainty than others, and Championship top end squads are always going to have uncertainty over their players. But what we do know about Somerville and Nanto specifically is that we're going to get the money that we want for them. Otherwise, they will stay. They both look extremely happy. They both look fine with what's going on. You know, they're both enjoying each other's friendship still out there. You can see that that's still, you know, something. I'm not concerned over it, because I truly believe that if we sell either of them, we'll replace them. Might not be completely with their quality, but you're not going to go out and buy a Somerville again, a ready-made Somerville. You're not. But I do believe if we sold Somerville for 35 million, we'd go and replace him with a Jack Clark or somebody of that kind of ilk, a Morgan Whittaker, who might not be as ready-made as a Somerville, but can progress and have the potential to get there. So I'm not concerned by that at all. I think we might get to the end of the window and lose one of them, maybe even both. But like I say, I'm confident that the money will be right. And I think we can survive without them. You know, this squad is actually stacked. I was thinking a couple of weeks ago, or even a week or so ago, that we needed like a lot of transfers, but I really don't think that we do. The more and more I look at the squad and the way that it's shaping up, players come in that are going to be happy getting limited minutes while they progress, i.e. DeBayo, Crew, you know, these players, even Bamford, I would put into that kind of category now as well. This squad is stacked. We're already saying that we're going to have a problem at the back with putting an Austrian international into the team. So, yeah, I'm not concerned.
Well, what about the forgotten man as well, who I'm hearing good things about as well, is Joffy. I mean, suddenly, if you're a Joffy as well, and you know, he might be hanging on to see what happens there, because he's looked sharp for me as Joffy. Joffy's looked sharp, and you're wondering, is there potential that actually he could stay in the team, you know, not end up getting loaned out? I think we were speculating that could still happen. Maybe he needs that, but I don't know. I mean, maybe there's still an opportunity for Joffy here at this club and having an impact. I mean, he's probably, you know, I mean, certainly if, you know, you lose a Somerville or a Nanto, he goes up a pecking order, doesn't he? You know, and do you necessarily need to directly replace, or is there enough there as it is? I mean, it's fascinating, really.
The thing is with Joffrey, we've never really known exactly what we're going to get out of him. Does he play best off the right? Is he a 10? Can he play as a 9? Is he only a shadow striker and he plays as part of a 2? Like, there's all these questions with him. And then you throw in his injury record, which is coming to his way every time. It looks like he's going to get a run or an opportunity. He gets injured. But yeah, I'd love him to take that position. And if he's going to be happy with minutes, not starting game, but minutes to try and earn a starting position, then great, because you need some of them in the squad. You can't just have 18 first team 11, first 11 ready players, because otherwise you're not going to keep them all happy. You got to have players that are chomping at the bit to try and earn that position, and Joffy can be one of them. And he'd definitely give us something different. We've seen that in the 2 pre-season games. We know what he's good at. And if let's just say, just for the example of making a scenario, let's just say that Somerville leaves and Nonto stays. You could be in a position where you just make one replacement signing and the squad is absolutely fine. You've got different possibilities to look at, because we do have options out there. We have a lot of options out there now when you think about it. Joseph can play on the left as well. We have Dan James. We'd have Nonto. We'd have a replacement. You can't have that many more. Firpo could play left wing, and you could play Wöber left back. There's all sorts of different options and permutations. Aaronson started on the left yesterday, so you could play Aaronson there. Rutter can play on the right. Yeah. I think we're going to see more of Rutter on the right this season than we do in the 10. And then you can play Pirro in the 10, you can play Gellhardt in the 10, you can play Aaronson in the 10, Rothwell could play there. There's so many options. You can't have that many more. We'd all love a stacked 20 squad, but it ain't going to look like that.
No. Do you think, someone like Pep has talked about it a lot, you want a smaller competitive squad. And we've seen a lot of, in quote, deadwood gone this summer, your Shackletons and Pervaders, these ones that were kind of in the squad week after week and didn't really get a sniff, and you never felt like they were ever going to take a position, to be quite frankly. I know Shackleton got a few games, but that's when it was all a bit topsy-turvy, wasn't it? You never felt like he was going to kind of, nail down a starting spot. But now it feels, some areas you're like, oh, yeah, he could start. Oh, actually, yeah, but he could start. Oh, no, but there's him. And don't forget about it. It feels like it's this really tight, taut squad now where, it's going to be pretty ruthless. You can imagine the level in training is just through the absolute roof.
Browney, honestly, and I mean this hand on heart, if I could decide to start the season tomorrow, or the window shuts tomorrow, I'd bite your hand off. I'd absolutely bite your hand off. Take the squad as it is now, even though there's a couple of gaps. We could argue left back. You could argue a Pablo Hernandez type 10, right? But it's minimal. When you think of what we've actually got on paper right now in a Somerville, an Onto still at the club, others as well, Wöber, Bogle coming in, giving us that out-and-out right back that we haven't had. As great as Archie Gray was, we were limited at right back last season because we didn't have that out-and-out full-back that broke past. Go and have a look at the goal from Joseph yesterday, the fourth goal. Archie Gray never got in that position. No. Never. Yeah, and that's not a negative towards him. It just wasn't his position. So, yeah, I'm absolutely fine with the squad as it is now. Yeah. For me, the main position that I would like to see is another centre midfielder. I think that's actually the most key. But
that's what Farker said as well, isn't it? Farker has said as much, hasn't he, after that they're looking at that position. You've lost Kamara, you've lost Gray. Yeah. That is what they're kind of keeping an eye on, really, isn't it?
I think we're a little bit limited there because, I said to you the other day that we could maybe play Brendan as an 8, but he's not. For me, he's not. I don't think he's physically demanding enough. I don't think his discipline off the ball from going backwards is good at the press, but going backwards isn't good enough to do that role effectively, like a Kamara or even like Rothwell. Rothwell covers the gaps quite well. But once you go past Ampadu, Gruev and Rothwell, I don't think you have a proper centre midfielder. I know Crew's in there as well, but you can't expect too much from Crew. I do think you're going to see him play more minutes than we first thought, though, because I do think he's a very, very tidy footballer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And kind of a bit of transfer news just to kind of link it to what we were saying then about midfield. The Leeds heavily linked and have reportedly seen a bid rejected by Colne for midfielder Dejan Ljubicic, who's a midfielder from the Bundesliga. So, dipping their toes in that market potentially again. Yeah. I think I've been hearing about £3 or £4 million rejected. He's got a year left on his contract. Apparently, he doesn't look like he's going to sign a new contract. So it's similar to Bogle, really. It's kind of a strong position to be in when you're going after a player like that. obviously we don't know tons about him unless you're watching the Bundesliga. I mean, according to another friend of the show, Tom Cardiff, he's done a little assessment of him, and he although he didn't get any goals last season, he's far more active in an attacking sense than a Glenn Kamara, certainly on that point of view. And actually comparing it, chances created as well, he's above Kamara and Gruev as well for last season. So that could be something there which makes sense, couldn't it, really, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's clear that we're shopping in a particular market, and it's intelligent. Because you get these players for a cut price deal. He's already stated that he's not going to sign a new contract. They got relegated last season, so they're playing Bundesliga 2 next season. So they'll be looking to take their opportunity to cash in on him. I expect that deal to happen. I think that is a deal that's going to happen. I think it's following a very similar pattern to the Bogle deal, in that they've got a valuation of him. We're playing hardball. We know we're not just going to spend money for the sake of spending money. It's clearly somebody that's been identified as the correct target to improve that midfield. The great thing with Ljubicic, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Ljubicic.
Yeah.
Is versatile. He can play in a lot of positions. For Con last season, I think he played all across the back line. Can play in midfield as well. Obviously, he's a replacement for Kamara, but he's not just dictated to that one position. And again, when you've got a squad where you're trying to fit 17, 18 players into 11, injuries can happen. It's good to have players that are able to be versatile and play in them positions competently, not just fill in, to actually be able to play that position out and out. So I think it's a signing that makes a lot of sense. Austrian international, 8 or 9 caps for Austria. So, he's no mug.
No, indeed. Do you think, in a way, and this is slightly going off tangent a little bit, we're talking about getting back to the Premier League, still being in the Championship. Is there an argument, actually, it's kind of maybe better to go up this season? There'd have been too much work to be done, kind of, if we'd have gone up last season, another year in the Championship where you're adding a Bogle, you're adding, bits of quality here and there. You've had your big sale, Archie Gray, so you've recovered from that. Is there an argument actually we'd be in a better place to go up next season? Similar to with Bielsa, really.
We made that argument that time. I was just thinking exactly that.
It's kind of that kind of thing again, isn't it?
It was 100% the case when it happened in Bielsa. And I do think another year of progression for some of these players will be good for them, especially like a Gio Rutter, a full season for Struijk, Bogle integrated in the squad, a proper out and out right back. Meslier maybe even another season. Ampadu another season in the Championship won't do him any harm. I would always argue that going up would have been better because the monies that are involved, the parachute payments if we came back down, the position that we're in this season is going to be precarious if we don't go up because of parachute payments, reducing and whatnot. So I would always have to say that going up would have been better. But I hear your point. I think there is a number of this squad that will be better in the Premier League next season than if they were in it this season. I can totally get on board with that.
Yeah, indeed. Just a comment here from Coco. Plymouth Argyle fan here. Leeds by far the best team at home park last season with great fans. Thanks for JB for season loan plus Forshaw here as long as he stays fit. Leeds for me will go up as champions. Oh, cheers, mate. I hope so. So some other bits and pieces then, since the friendly. One we just wanted to kind of mention is the Liam Cooper situation. No kind of movement on that front. We don't know where he is. He's not in Germany. He's not been in any kind of publicity with the club since the end of the season. We knew there was a new offer on the table, but no movement. So it's a bit of a strange one, isn't it, really, Jess?
I find it really bizarre, mate. I find it really, really bizarre. We obviously we're moving on, and I get that. And we've had a fantastic kind of send off for Luke Ayling, who by the time that he got that send off was already at Middlesbrough, and we had a great piece on socials from him and from the club about it. From Coops, Dallas obviously involved, and then when Dallas announced his retirement and what we got on the back of that was great. And then the end of the season's come, and we've all understood that Coops is probably going to move on. Contract's been offered, but he's probably going to move on. And I think it makes sense for all parties. I think it's good for Leeds United at this point. I think it's good for him. He can get another 2 or 3 year deal somewhere else and play. He can still play at championship level week in, week out. But we're now in a position where the socials from the club are announcing new captains and new leadership teams. And it's just like Coops has just been forgotten about. And I'm not sure whether that's coming from the club side, whether it's come from Coops' side, whether there's been a fallout. I don't imagine that there has, but I'm confused by it because Cooper's clearly not taken a contract up elsewhere yet. Is he still thinking about taking the deal with Leeds? And if that's the case, that feels even weirder because why is it not being discussed? Why is nobody reporting it? It's just a really, really weird one for me.
Yeah, it is a bit odd, and it kind of leads us nicely to, talking about the leadership of the team, and a new captain has been announced, and it is Ethan Ampadu. There's a little leadership group, vice captains Stroik and Meslier as well. We'll kind of run through each one. Ampadu, for me, it's spot on. I mean, This guy is just born leader, isn't he? He's just, when he came to the club last season, I mean, just straight away, he just took everything under his wing. He just looked completely comfortable at the club, looked as if he could handle the shirt, was a very, very consistent performer, an incredible performer through last season, a vital part of the machine, and it makes sense as captain.
He's just so experienced beyond his years, isn't he? He's so far beyond 23. Obviously made his professional debut at 15. Just a super talent, super player, great guy. You can tell he's just a top guy. Filled in, obviously, at centre back. I think he played every game last season as well. I think he started in every single game of last season. Super consistent, never injured. And he puts his body on the line every game. He's that kind of player. I think we ended up missing him. I didn't think so at the time, but I think we ended up missing him in the midfield for that amount of time when he then had to do a job at centre back. I think if Pascal had not got injured and then had 6 months out of the captaincy, I think he probably would have kept it. If I'm honest, I do. I think he would have probably kept it. But I think Ethan's the perfect person to have that, and I really hope that he has a forever home at Leeds. I know it sounds a little bit cheesy, but it feels like somebody I can imagine that when, I'm into my 40s, Ethan Ampadu's coming back as a retired pro, as a Leeds legend. I can see that in him. Given the way that his career's gone, out on so many loans from Chelsea and whatnot, I can imagine him wanting to probably, keep his roots here and stay for as long as he can. So, just top player, great guy.
He's also, if we get promoted, he's in the Premier League, he can handle the Premier League guy as well. That he'll be up to that level as well.
He's arguably the most Premier League ready player we have. If I'm honest, he is, because I think everybody, even though there's probably more talented players within the squad, I don't think their experiences and the
mentality is in it as well. I remember the Chelsea game of the FA Cup. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and you could tell he could handle that occasion, which is obviously a big part of it. Meslier, a few raised eyebrows on that one. Him kind of being in that leadership group, vice captain and whatnot. Obviously, one of the longer term members of the squad actually now, if you look at it. Still only young himself, in a slightly odd position, Meslier, where I think the fan base is a bit mixed on him. Is he good enough, really? Is he the type of keeper we want at the club at the moment? It's really difficult, isn't it? Because it doesn't seem like he's got the suitors, really. I know there was a link to Marseille, wasn't there? But, it's one of those things where, I don't know. I mean, is this a tactic to kind of maybe, I don't know, get him more, more solidified or something? I don't know.
I think there's an element of probably confidence. Trying to give him more confidence from Daniel Farke. I think Farke rates him. I think he rates him really highly. I think one-on-one, a striker bearing down 10, 15 yards out, I would put Meslier in that position all day over every other championship keeper that there is, and a lot of Premier League ones as well. I think one-on-one, his shot stopping is absolutely fantastic. think his distribution with his feet is pretty good, and I think that's why he's so favoured by Daniel Farke, because we play out from the back a lot. My problem with Illan Meslier is the long range shots. He just concedes way too many of them. Too many of them that I think most average championship keepers would probably save 9 out of 10 of them. That's how I feel. I can just think of so many from last season. And if I had the opportunity to sell him for 10 million, I would, and I would replace him. I would. But what I will say with that is that we still have a valuable asset there. He's very young. He's nowhere near his prime. A goalkeeper's prime is between 28 and 32. They hit their prime way, way later. They have a longer career because of the position that they play. So there is some, some logic to keeping him and making sure that we get the proper value for him. And Daniel Farke's 100% backing him. He's showing him 100% backing, which I think if we are going to keep him, that's exactly what you need to do. So, yeah, that's how I feel about it, mate. Like, I do think he'll be our weak link next season. I'm going to say that out loud. If every team has a weak link, I think Meslier will be one of them. Think about them goals that we conceded away at Middlesbrough towards the back in the last season. Like, we should be winning that game comfortably, but because Meslier is just not concentrating from distance or getting lobbed, hard work is our real land sometimes, but I'm behind backing him.
Yeah, I say Leeds are disgraceful not giving Coops a send off. What I would say is there's no way they're not going to give him a send off if he
don't know that. Yeah,
we don't know, and they could actually be working on something pretty big. It's hard to say, isn't it? We're not too sure.
Bear in mind, just before you move on from that, bear in mind that Coops has not signed somewhere else yet either. No. Like there is still a chance that he signs. Maybe a player coach position. There's all sorts of different permutations that could be coming up for this. The fact that we're now 2 weeks away from the start of the season, is it something like that? And he hasn't signed for another club yet. Tells you that something's going on with Coops. It's not just the club's fault. So I would just have liked to have seen an update, and it feels weird that there hasn't been anything 2 weeks before the start of the season from his point of view as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Have you been keeping an eye on business from other clubs this summer? It's not really something is on my radar, but just looking at Sheffield United, and it's interesting with them because I look, they signed Kiefer Moore, Callum O'Hare, they're in for the left back out from Burrows as well. There's that part of me going, are they doing that thing where they make the obvious signings, but then it works almost? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's that weird thing of, obviously they've had departures, have got relegated, but you look at O'Hare, if that works, that could be a brilliant signing. Keith Moore, we know what he's about. Burrows at left back, are they, doing obvious stuff, but actually you go, it might actually be annoyingly successful, and
I'm not worried about him, mate. I'm not worried about him in the slightest. I think Wilder's had his day. He's had his moment where he can extract the most out of a Sheffield United squad that fit his system perfectly. But that squad isn't the same squad anymore. He doesn't have the same effect on players the way that he did.
No.
He's bitter. He's twisted. He isn't a manager that I would imagine that I would want to play for. The likes of Jayden Bogle as an example that wanted to run down his contract. They then activated a year extra, to which he said, no, I don't want to stay here. I'd rather go to a team that missed out on promotion last season, that have been here 2 years, and stay here where I'm already settled and comfortable. Max Lowe did exactly the same and went to Sheffield Wednesday, which I find extremely weird. Yeah. When you think about that, what does that say? Their first part of their recruitment kind of campaign, and we're building and and all the rest of it, was Jamie Shackleton. That was their statement. Start signing. Now we all love Jamie, but we know his capabilities, we know his limitations, we know his injury record, we know he's a. Would we have been surprised if Jamie Shackleton had signed for a League One club? I don't think we would. We wouldn't. If it had pitched up at Rotherham or Bolton, you wouldn't be surprised. So I'm not worried about him at all. Kiefer Moore is a decent signing, but he wasn't the main man at Ipswich last season. They signed him as an injury replacement to Hurst, who's now going to go back in as their main man. Ipswich didn't go and sign him, did they? They're desperate for players. They didn't go and sign him. I think Callum O'Hare's got potential, but he's just come back from a really bad ACL injury. You know, again, Premier League interest apparently was there, but then he failed a medical at Leicester from what we heard. I don't know how true that is. Some people are saying it's true. Some people are not saying it's true. I'm not worried about it, mate. I'm really, really not. I think our recruitment so far has been better, and I think the players that we've got are better. I think we'd have done the team that we had last season would have done a far better job than the Sheffield United team did in the Premier League last season.
Yeah. Yes.
And you know what I mean? And this season, the team are a year further on in progression. So yeah, I don't say. I think Luton are the threat.
Yeah. And that's basically because they haven't lost huge pieces of their team. I guess obviously Barkley's gone to Villa, but in the main, they've managed to keep it together, haven't they? Really,
that's how they recruited. Though they were very, very clever with the way that they recruited. They knew that they didn't really have the capabilities to stay up, but they gave it a good go. They still finished absolutely miles behind, by the way. And considering the fact that both Forest and Everton had points deductions, it was still done and dusted with two games to go, I think it was, or a game to go. So, you know, they were still a mile away, but they did recruit for the Championship. And that was effective because you're then not going to have any players that are glum about it. You know, they all understood the expectations. The likelihood is we're going to go down, but we're building to win the Championship next season. I think that's a really strong position to be in. I think Rob Edwards is a top manager. I think they have a bit of a special kind of thing at Luton. It's a bit... The ground's weird. I've been a couple of times. You know, the area's weird. The atmosphere that they create, the football that they play. You know, they've got some good players too, likes of Alfie Doughty. I think Andros Townsend's going to be there again next season, which is he's nuts in the Championship. I think the Kyle Morris up front is really effective. Yeah, they're a good side, mate. They're a good side, so I think they'll be a problem.
Do you think there's going to be any surprise packages that you're worried about? Is it going to be, you know, one of the promoted boys that suddenly, you know, put it together and it's Ipswich Mark II? I mean, this is the thing. You just never know who comes out of the woodwork, do you? I mean, Ryan here, I mean, he's saying about his prediction is Wednesday will finish above Sheffield United. And Wednesday,
a lot of people saying
Wednesday could be interesting, couldn't it, this season? You know, it's that, you know, Danny Roll there. I mean, you know, an interesting guy, top coach, and this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, with Leeds United, as kind of big as the expectation is, it's never a straightforward, simple road, is it? It's always difficult. I mean, last year the Ipswich thing was just kind of like you think if it hadn't been for Ipswich, we're promoted. We're back in. You're talking about a team from League One that got back-to-back automatic promotion. When does that happen? How does that happen? And it, you know. If that happens again, I'm just that's it, I'm done.
I think Ipswich are a very, very rare specimen of the situation. Yeah. I don't even think their team really on paper was even good enough. I said it for most of the last season. You know, they had a couple of real players, Amari Hutchinson, you know, among a couple of others, but the you know, Leif Davis, I would probably put in that category as well, was exceptional last season. But the bulk of that squad isn't top end Championship. It just isn't. Kieran McKenna, I think, sprinkles an X factor on it.
Managerial job, wasn't it? Yeah.
From you know, the consistency of the performances and results from the year before in League One, and the amount of games that they've lost, and their ability to stay in and play a game of 90 minutes and either win. You know, just on that day, we're playing this game, we're going to win this game, and sticking in and late goals. And you know, as much as we kind of turned our nose up at the luck that they had last season, you make your own luck in football. It is true. So, but I can't imagine that would happen very often. You know, they I would say the only team that I can think of, and maybe this is just because I'm a Leeds fan, that was similar to that with the Leeds team that went up under Grayson. But when we first came up from League One and we finished 7th, we were in the top 6 for most of that season. That side was special. You know, the likes of Becchio, Snodgrass, Howson. You know, there was a lot of quality within that team. Patrick Isnorbo, you know, we had some
momentum, didn't we, as well?
Yeah,
got up, good feeling, rejuvenated.
Yeah,
you know,
momentum's massive. It's absolutely massive. So, can they be one of them that do it? I think Portsmouth would be the most likely to give that kind of problem, just because of their fan base. The club is a little bit like that in Portsmouth. They have that kind of feel about them. but I don't know enough about them. League One is not a division that I've watched a whole lot of. So I don't know, the style of play, what they're like, who the key men are. Like I know a couple of players that play for both them and Derby, but and Oxford, obviously, Oxford are not going to be anywhere near that. They've not got that. No. They're going to be lucky to finish anywhere other than bottom. That's no disrespect. It's just true. They're going to be the Rotherham. So yeah. Looking through the division, mate. West Brom, Carlos Corberán. I'd always say that he's probably going to be a problem and be up there. Them aside, I just see a championship table, mate. No disrespect.
Okay.
Just do.
You look at it, you just think, God, it's got to happen. It's got to happen for us this season, hasn't it? I mean, with that squad, there's no excuse, is there? There's just no excuse. I mean,
the level is
just keep Somerville or something. It's ridiculous.
The level was so much higher last season as well. And don't get me wrong, we might be 2 months into the season and be like, oh my God, the quality in the championship is so good this season. But we were saying that the season was going to be tough last season. We looked at it and we looked at Leicester, we looked at Southampton, we looked at some of the other teams that have not lost all their best players. We looked at Hull as a potential for having a good season. We looked at, Norwich are always going to be there. And we picked out these teams. I don't see that when I look at this division this season. I don't. No. I see Middlesbrough in year 3 of Michael Carrick. How's that going to look? Is he going to be able to stand the test of time? West Brom, another year worth of not being in the Premier League and problems with finances. And I know I just made the point of Carlos Corberán, but they are going to be weaker. Hull are definitely weaker, who are another side that you would probably say are going to be in and around there. Burnley have got Scott Parker. Come on. Awful management. Awful manager. Sheffield United have got financial problems and are struggling to recruit. It isn't Leeds, Leicester and Southampton.
No, it's not.
The 3 that came down, it's just not. So, no, mate, I don't think there's any excuses at all.
No, indeed. Dropped in here from Todd Cantwell, available from Rangers. He's put in his transfer request, hasn't he? Would you take him? What do you think, Farker? Would you think Farker would go there again?
Farker probably would. I mean, Todd Cantwell was excellent in the Championship for Daniel Farker. I just don't think we need him. But again, it depends. If we sell Nonto, especially, I don't think he's a replacement for Somerville, but Nonto, he would probably be a really good replacement for. Good player, yeah, sure. He's not going to cost a lot. Probably south of 6 million, I would say. So yeah, I guess. But right now, I just don't think we need him.
No, exactly. CB evening, guys. I see you're both playing away, so to speak. Haha, indeed. Good stuff. Well, Jason, is there anything else you wanted to cover off, mate, before we go?
Definitely think Rooney will be sacked by October. Yes. Ryan in the comments. I did see the poor Portsmouth fan give us obviously the nice comment earlier, and I was thinking to myself, you poor bugger, you're going to be in for such a tough season this season because you've got the worst manager in the division by an absolute mile. And I think you've probably got a bottom 3 squad, unfortunately. So I do. Yeah,
if you're still watching, let us know what you think of Rooney and how that's going to go. That's going to be fascinating, that, isn't it? Yeah. So good. Yeah. Sorry, mate. Go on.
No, apart from that, I think we've covered everything, didn't we? I think we're going to see. I still think we're going to see some movement, even though I said I don't think we need much more. I think we probably will see 1 or 2 more. I think we'll see 1 more loan signing. As a minimum, I would imagine that we'll have 2 loan options within this squad. Just want to finish off on Mateo Joseph, who I thought was absolutely excellent yesterday again. His movement is just second to none. It's a proper out-and-out 9. He looks like a man now, not a boy, trying to stake his claim. He looks ready for first-team football. I still think Pirot's got something to offer, even though I don't think he fully fits what we're trying to do. But when you watch Joseph play that position, it looks totally different. The pass from Bogle that he finishes, it's a simple finish, but we've watched Bamford for 5 years miss that chance.
Yeah.
And Joseph isn't missing them chances. So start him, play him. Pirot is on the bench week 1, and Joseph is the man. and give it for him to lose. Buzzing for him, really, really buzzing for him. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for me, mate. Excited, just so excited for the season now.
Yeah, 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks, and then bang, we're straight back at it. Brilliant. Well, I want to thank everybody who's watched along, got your comments in. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to the channel as well. Go get yourself one of these as well. Come on, put it in the club's coffers.
Yeah,
come
on. Pay up, give them your money.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, here we go.
This guy.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for watching along this evening. I've been Sim Brown. With me has been Jason Booker. We'll be back on Monday for Monday's roundtable show with everybody else. So we will see you then. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.